Welcome back, dudes. I know some of you guys have just been super excited for the car to come back. Well, here it is. It is back from Turn-In Concepts, completely done, and I couldn't be more happier with the transmission and the STI swap and everything overall. The car is just running amazing. It feels amazing. Shifting's amazing. And I'm just so happy that they got this completed in 3 days. If I would have done it myself and gone through and tried to fix some stuff and take the transmission out, whatnot, it literally would have probably taken a month and a half for me to get everything going. But they did it. They hooked up the eye-wire to the transmission. They got the manual controller in there. They got the clutch adjusted. They pulled the transmission back out, and then they checked over my work. And it was just a good peace of mind for them to get that done, and they get it done in like 3 days. So I couldn't ask for more. Yeah, I didn't get to finish this install by myself, but that's the only downside. So I'm just missing that part of it. Otherwise, I couldn't be more happier with the way things went with this transmission swap. So it's very difficult to see with the top mount intercooler on, but the STI transmission is mated. Everything's working correctly. There is a little bit of an issue with the clutch cylinder here. The bracket for it, where it's supposed to bolt into the motor, and they actually have this for an STI. So this top bolt for the brace, there it is not bolted in. However, I haven't noticed any difficulty with that in driving the vehicle, and I'm past the break-in period for the clutch, so I have put some harder miles on it, and I haven't had an issue with that. The shifter in the STI compared to the WRX transmission is worlds better. It feels amazing. The bushings on here, the Cartboy short throw shift itself, just feels so good. You just want to do nothing but shift gears when you're driving the car. It's just such a satisfying feeling compared to the WRX, and that being a cable shift, where this is a mechanical shift. So much better. Just couldn't be happier about the shifting of my car with the new transmission, or the STI transmission. I love it. It's amazing. The only gripe I would have about it is I'll probably have to buy a new lockout. So if you guys can hear that, it's not that smooth sound or pull like the WRX. Now, I think I can go and I can get a Perrin lockout, and that's one will clear up this noise and it'll be a little better. So another thing having the Cartboy short throw shift is the linkage for the reverse lockout. That cable rattles when you get into like 6th gear and higher RPMs, then you start to hear the cable in there rattle. But the fix for it is to get that Perrin, or I think some other companies make them, but I'll probably go with Perrin, and it'll fix this noise from the lockout, and then it'll fix that cable rattle. So once that's done, the car is just going to feel really solid, and it'll be nice to have that refined. Coming back here to the console, the other parts of the center console here. This is the DCCD Pro manual controller, so I had them add this so I could have some adjustability to the center diff. So when it's all the way down, your center diff is pretty much open, and most of your torque bias, or whatever you want to call it, is most of your drive is at the front with the front wheels. So the further you go up, the more it will lock that center diff, and then the more it will lock up the rear wheels. I found out the hard way in a rainstorm that having the center diff and the rear wheels locked is not necessarily a good thing. I was spinning out and doing some fishtailing, so I had to come in here manually and turn it down. Now with this, you want to be really careful because you don't want to go full lock either way. There's certain conditions and places that you can use those, but generally you want to stay in the middle, if not a little more center lock with the rear wheels. So usually if it's nice weather, I'll drive around here, and then you know, if it's raining or something like that, I'll turn it down a little bit, and I'll try not to lock those rear wheels. But during parking, if you have it down here further, it seems like there's a lot of binding from the front. So during parking, I have to manually adjust this to get a little more rear bias. So, you know, being that it is the cheaper controller, I did save some money, but having, you know, messed with this and played around with it now, I wish I would have got the DCCD Spider, the one that has an automatic feature. So once I get that later down the road, I'll go ahead, pop out this plate right here, pop that out, and then it's just a push button. So that will engage automatic mode. You really don't have to mess with it at all. If you're on a track or something like that, or if you want to do some really aggressive back road driving, then that's when you should take it out of auto and go to manual. So eventually I'll get there, or I'll just learn to, you know, adjust this manually better and get better at paying attention to it in certain conditions. So for snow driving, you know, I'd probably want a lot less lock up in the rear, unless I want to go and, you know, do a bit of hooning in the snow or something like that. Then I would move it back up here. And that is the manual controller for iWires. Having added all those bushings and the stiffer mounts and stuff like that for the differential, this thing's got a lot more NVH, that's for sure. You can definitely feel and hear the differential and the transmission a lot more. I'm not sure, you know, I'd want that for a daily driver, but it's not crazy bad. Most of it is that triple disc that's got a lot of noise. That's another thing. When you're not in gear at a stoplight, you can actually hear the discs of the triple clutch rattle. It almost sounds like you know, a really badass race car, or something's broken with your car. You know, people next to you are kind of looking at you like, what's going on with your new car, and why is it rattling like a piece of crap? But you know, it's there and it does its job, that's for sure. And the engagement on it feels really good. So far I like it, but if I had to do over, I might consider a different route. We'll see, you know, with the longevity of the clutch and how I get used to it, as far as, you know, if I'll go with it again or I'll go with something else. So it would have been nice to have this video as a, you know, a commentary and driving around with the car, but in Ohio, we're in winter, they've got salt on the ground, and I don't want the salt eating a lot of my parts away or rusting them up quicker. So the car's probably going to sit, you know, at least until we get a few rains, and, you know, if it stays cold and keeps snowing, it probably won't get driven until next season. I'll come out and I'll start it up. But, you know, we do have some other things coming for the WRX, and it's not an STI. If anything, it's a FA20 STI.